If you are in your 40s, 50s, or even older, and you keep experiencing the same crappy relationship patterns that end the same way over and over again, this is a very important video for you to watch. First step, if you want to change your life and your relationships, you have to change your paradigm. Listen, I'm not saying that there's nothing that person you are currently with did not do anything wrong. I'm not saying that they were not an equal contributor, perhaps, to the downfall of the relationship, but I am inviting you to look at the truth of your situation. Regardless of this specific person, when was the last time in your life you had a loving, beautiful, long-term committed relationship that did not end in disappointment? 10 years ago? Never? In a string of disappointing relationships that all seem to end in a negative way, remember, there is only one common denominator. It's not them, it's you. If you look at a string of negative relationships and you look at the one person is the constant, which is yourself, you have to start asking yourself, is it really them or is it actually something you bring to the table? And again, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying that you don't have value. I'm just saying there are things that you are doing that keeps perpetuating and repeating the same negative relationships over and over and over and over. Now, here's what you can do about it. It's important, first and foremost, to recognize the truth of your situation. Again, there is only one common denominator. Now, if you're, again, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or older, the next step is to recognize and be honest with yourself, your way is not working. You can't, read the ingredient list when you're inside the jar. If you've gone through this a number of times, again, you're getting a little older in life, and you keep having the same patterns end the same way, it's super important to recognize your way is not working. Likely you never will, and you'll start to understand that here. But if you actually were honest to yourself that your way is not working and it's time to find a new way, that is going to at least make you open to why you're not doing things correctly. But first thing, again, is to recognize your way is not working very well, never has, never will, and to recognize there is only one common denominator in a string of negative relationships. Here's the next reason why you're having a very, very, very hard time. You're focused on attracting people. Oh, no big deal. I can go out and meet someone new. Big deal. Anyone can meet someone new. Can you keep them? That's the question. Anyone can attract someone new. Some people have a really hard time keeping them. And probably one of the worst things experiences attracting someone amazing, beautiful, incredible, and having things go really well for a few months, a few years, and all of a sudden one argument just destroys it all, and years that you put into it just slips through the cracks. But a lot of people put on a brave face because they say to themselves, oh, no big deal, I can meet someone new. Great! So what, you can meet someone new. Can you keep them? If you look back at your life and you look at all the relationships you lost, you should be a little nervous about what's going to happen the next time. So what, you meet someone new? What do you think is going to eventually happen? Do you really think that pattern's going to all of a sudden change itself and break itself? There is a very, very, very good chance the next time is going to repeat just like the last one. Eventually, you say the wrong thing, you take the wrong action, you have the wrong conversation, and next thing you know, you're starting over again. Stop looking at the fact that you can attract people. Ask yourself, do you really believe that you can keep them? Now, here's one of my biggest points of all. Here's the reason why people keep repeating. Here's one of the biggest reasons why people keep repeating the same pattern over and over. Remember what I just said. You can attract people, but can you keep them? Do you notice you keep having the same stuff? Like there's just things go really well for several months or years, and then there's just one night you say the wrong thing and the relationship's destroyed. And for just some reason, you can't hit that emotional reset button. At some point, you're gonna get drained and exhausted of having to start over and over again. But here's why that is. You've not addressed the actual core of the issue. Make no mistake, the two most valuable resources in everything you life, especially relationships, are emotional states and energy. 99.999% of you have not actually learned how to control your emotions, so you don't say and do the wrong things. Again, how many times have you had a situation where it comes down to one night, you say one thing you shouldn't have said, you do one thing you shouldn't have done, you take an act. I had someone I knew that just in a jealous rage, just threw all their stuff, like, their partner's stuff in the street. It's just like, you do one stupid thing and all of a sudden it's like all those years go down the toilet. Aren't you kind of tired of sabotaging yourself? But here's the question. If you haven't addressed the emotional core, what's the worst part about knowing the next time that emotion comes up in your next relationship? Fear, sadness, disappointment, betrayal. What's the worst part about knowing once that emotional roller coaster starts, you're not going to be able to get off that ride, and you're very likely to say things you shouldn't say, do something you shouldn't do, or take an action you certainly should not take. If you don't learn in a practical way how to control your emotions, you are a dead man or dead woman walking, because it's inevitable. Eventually, your emotions get the better of you, and that is when you do things and say things you shouldn't say or do. But here's the good news for you, or the bad news for you, depends on how you want to look at it. Your ability to actually address that core, to control your emotions, is a skill. It's a muscle. But here's why a lot of you are failing. You have not realized it's a skill. You're not going to learn a workout how to do that and address that out of thin air. It's just like in classic sense. If you want to become a professional athlete, you probably want the best coach guiding you, teaching you, giving you course correction. The best workout is going to give you the best results. But if you don't have any workout at all and you don't actually address that core, that's why your emotions are vulnerable. And that's why eventually you're inevitable to repeat the same pattern. So next one is recognizing your ability to control your emotional states is one of the most important assets you will ever have in your life. Not just to enjoy your life, but to make sure that you enjoy your relationships and you do not say and do things you shouldn't say or do. Almost everyone here listening to this message, I would say everyone listening to this message, does not have that skill. And that's why all of a sudden, one day, 3 years goes down the tube, 10 years goes down the tube, because you just get in that emotional rut and you don't know how to get out. And again, I like analogies. You can't conceptualize your way to bench pressing 300 pounds at the gym. You can't read your way to lifting that kind of weight. In this case, the way your brain grows, strengthens, and evolves is very similar to a muscle. And you can't fake it till you make on this one here. If you don't address that core with the right workout, it's inevitable you're going to keep repeating the same patterns, because, again, does not matter what you know, it matters what you can do. If your emotions get the better of you, it is inevitable you're going to say and do the wrong thing at the wrong time. Here's the next step. You need to learn how to really love yourself, because the truth is, a lot of you do not. Loving yourself, contrary to popular belief, is not a complicated topic. Loving yourself is really believing yourself. Loving yourself is believing you're worth the risk. Loving yourself is leaving no stone unturned. Loving yourself is saying, you know what, I want a Harvard life, so I'm going to go to Harvard because I deserve the best. But a lot of you are half-assing it. A lot of you will only do it if it's cheap, or it's free, or if it's convenient. Very few of you have the courage to actually say, you know what, I'm going all out for myself. Listen, going to Harvard does not guarantee $1 million a year job, but it does shift the odds tremendously in your favor. And I get it. I understand a lot of you might be in a certain challenging situation where you really can do only so far. I get that. But we can all do our best. And listen, contrary to popular belief, YouTube is not an investment. Anything that is free and easy, that it takes no risk, where you have no skin in the game, that's not loving yourself. Loving yourself is saying, you know what, I'm going to do the very best I can. I'm going to do something that's a little scary, make me a little nervous. Again, if I can go to Harvard, I'm going to go to Harvard. That's what it is. But a lot of you do not do that. A lot of you believe that some kind of like YouTube education is the way to go. That's nothing. Not to mention also YouTube doesn't give you a feedback. I mean, how can the best education be something where you're not getting feedback from a real expert? That's garbage. But loving yourself is what sets the stage for something incredible. But loving yourself is real action proving you believe in yourself. If your words don't match your actions, then don't be surprised you keep repeating the same crappy relationships over and over again. People will value you like you value yourself. Say it with me, I'm worth more than YouTube. I'm worth more than just some kind of silly book or whatever. You're worth the best. But if you don't actually back that up with actions, and you're just gonna do things because it's easy, free, cheap, convenient, don't be surprised when people do not value you. People value you at the level you value yourself, based on your actions, not your words. And again, a lot of you are half doing it here, where you're doing things, at a level that is safe, rather than say, you know what, I'm gonna do it because I'm worth it, I deserve it, and I'm worth the risk. And here's what you can do about it. Nice and easy. Stop being cheap with yourself. Find the very best person for what you want. They're not hard to come by. Contrary to popular belief on this one here, someone who really can do what they say they can do would have no problem committing to a rock solid graduation date. I know I do, but that's because I deliver at a certain level. But a lot of you are going to the wrong people. You're going to people because they're cheap, they're free, it's a conversation with your friend, local pastor. A lot of you are going to the wrong people. A lot of you are just not being your own hero. But the solution is very simple. Find the best person, find the person that has the best proven track record to get you where you want to go, and work directly with them. Don't just subscribe to them on YouTube. That's weak. Say, you know what, I'm worth it. But if you do not do that and you continue to be cheap with yourself, you're teaching people how to value you. I mean, if you don't think you're worthy of investing in, why be so surprised when that other person upgrades? I mean, if you're not worth investing in, why should they invest in you? A lot of you are perpetuating the same patterns over and over again because you're not teaching people how to value you. If all you think you're worth is some kind of YouTube education, then don't be surprised when people at some level know that there's a better option out there. What I know to be true is the day you truly value yourself and leave no stone unturned and go all out, even if it is expensive, even if it's not easy, that's the day the world will value you. But until then, don't be surprised if you keep perpetuating the same patterns because you treat yourself like a second-class citizen. Here's another thing that keeps people stuck. Many people, and yourself probably likely, are confused. My average clients are over 50 years of age, and there's a darn good reason for that. A lot of people look at times in their life and say, oh, you know what, I used to be happy, I used to be good, I'll get back there myself again. Anyone can be happy when they're in Disney World. Anyone can feel really good when things are going their way and they're in a good relationship. That's not a skill. The question is, can you do it when things are not going well, like right now? If you can't do it when things are not going very well, you never had this skill in the first place. I'm here to unconfuse you. Emotional resiliency is a skill, or more accurately, it's a muscle, it's a conditioning. And you either have it or you don't. But don't be confused with times in your life where things are going your way, when you're in Disney World or Italy, with actually having real skill. If you really have that skill, you can be really good when things are not going so well. But that's the key to all your relationships. All relationships have challenges. You need to be prepared, conditioned, so when you're going through a challenge, you can still be good. You can still be good company. You can still remind them of why you're so amazing and charming and all those different things. But if you can't get out of that funk because you had one bad conversation, that's why it keeps ending over and over again. So the next step is look at the truth of your situation. Just because you've been happy in your life when things are going your way, that's not a skill. Can you do it when things are not going well? And the fact you're here probably speaks to the latter, not the former. And if that's the case, you might want to consider learning a skill, quite frankly, you never had before. And another really big problem is a lot of people do not create a real sense of urgency. The vast majority of you watching this are in your 40s, 50s, or even older. If you've had a string of really bad, negative, disappointing relationships, even when they're good, but when they're bad, they go down the tubes. A lot of you need to create a real sense of urgency. I'm here to help you do that here. You will not live forever. Nobody does. The one thing we all have a finite amount of time with is in this thing we call life. You will not live here forever. Don't you think you owe it to yourself to give yourself a real shot to enjoy as much time as you can? Listen, you do not get a prize for reinventing the wheel. If you are having a really hard time and you keep repeating the same patterns, even if you think you can recreate what I do for even doctors, medical directors, business owners, even if you could in 10 years, why would you waste 10 years of your life trying to reinvent something I could create for you, or any expert create for you? That's crazy. But remember, that's not what loving yourself is. Loving yourself is believing you're worthy of the best tools. Loving yourself is believing you're worthy of the risk. But you need to create a real sense of urgency here. Time is slipping. It is later than you think. And one of the biggest regrets you will ever experience in your life is knowing there was a better way, especially when that way is right in front of you. But create that real sense of urgency today, because you will not live forever. And again, you do not get a trophy for reinventing the wheel or creating something that's already been created for you here. But again, we come back full circle. What is loving yourself? Loving yourself is believing you're worth the risk. Loving yourself is saying, you know what? I got a real shot to shift the odds in my favor, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. But if you don't do that, don't be surprised when you keep perpetuating the same crappy patterns, the same crappy relationships over and over again. What you send, you are the energy to receive. If you send into this universe, into your relationships, is half-assedness, being cheap with yourself, you're just going to keep getting the same stuff over and over again, and that's up to you. Ironically, you create your own situations. But again, that's why I said at the very beginning of this little video here, it's like this is a real opportunity to look at a string of disappointing relationships. How many common denominators are there? But yeah, first step is to really believe you're worthy of the best tools, the best life. You want to win Wimbledon, you probably want Andre Agassi or Serena Williams backing up your efforts. In this case, I could very well be your Andre Agassi here, and I can prove what I can do here. But if you want to at least start at a lower level, I do have a book. You can start there. That's not going to hold a candle to my live course. I have a self-study option. Do something. Don't regret having the solution right in front of you. Like I said, one of the biggest regrets you'll ever experience in life is knowing there's a better way, but you fail to act. Don't let yourself down this time. Do something real. Actually act like you believe you're worthy of the best tools, the best life, and finally people will value you. That is what I know to be true. Talk to you soon.